first thing we're going to talk about is Peter's going to kindly talk. If you have a business and you're looking at PR, we're going to do a how to write a press release. Then we're going to talk about how to connect with journalists. And then we're going to talk about how to get media coverage. So firstly, Peter, let's get into the first one, how to write a press release.
Okay, so the first thing you've got to bear in mind here is that journalists are looking to get people to read their newspapers. So for you to get in their columns, you have got to have a news story that they're interested in. And that news story should be stamped on your forehead, because what we find is a lot of small businesses just try to put something out there that's something about their business that actually nobody else cares about. It's not a news story. So journalists are not about giving you a free advert. What they're about is you providing news stories for their columns. So point number one, make sure you have a news story. And that doesn't have to be just your product. That can be something relating to the way you've started the business. It might be where you work. It might be the people you employ. It can be a lot of different areas. But what you're trying to do is get your brand name into those columns. So it's your job to help the journalist create a good news story. So number one is a news story. Number two is create a good press release to push it out. And that should have details about the story, really good catchy headline. Remember, you get about 3 seconds of a journalist's airtime for them to choose your press release based on your headline when it lands in their email box. So good headline, good story, then add a good image, much greater chance of getting picked up if there's a good image there, and put contact details at the bottom of your press release.
Okay.
That's what the journalist is looking for.
Okay, so that was how to write a press release. The next question is how to connect with journalists.
Yeah, so look, there's 2 ways that you can engage with the journalist, 2 key ways. One is when they're writing their article and they're looking for you to contribute to that. And that is the best possible time to hit them, because this is all about timing. So if you're hitting a journalist when they're writing their article, you have a much better chance of getting picked up than when you're just trying to pump some stuff up. Best way you do that is through one of the media request routes that you find online. Journalink does that. So if you're on the Journalink platform, we will shoot requests through to your email box of journalists that are looking for businesses like yours. That's one way. The second way of engaging with a journalist is through a press release. So when the timing is right for you to pump something out, that's a wee bit harder to get picked up with, because you've really got to capture the journalist's interest. So try and align that to news that might be trending at that time. So best time to put something out about employing 5 new interns is when employment numbers are just hit, for instance. So timing is really key. The editorial request route from journalists and putting your release through a standard press release.
That's interesting. And then the last question is how to get media coverage.
So how to get coverage is have the story that people will read. And the best way to check this is when you're putting a press release together, bounce it off somebody else and say, what do you think? And the advice I always give is if you've got a 12-year-old kid there, ask them to read it. And if you capture their interest to the extent they read it to the end of the press release, that one's going to fly. If they don't get beyond the headline, write it again, because that's not going to capture anybody's interest.